Yesai. Salam to Shalom, Rastafari scenes. Greetings and welcome, everyone. It's Rasar Tafari here, speaking with a real report and a successful operational update on the process, and the most important process within every life, namely self-mastery, the ability to safely and sustainably and definitely master your life and your destiny. Hashtag self-mastery coach, right? So first of all, as the very first step to self-mastery, to master your life and your destiny, you simply have to identify what cycles of life you are currently in at this very moment, because that way you know what your real-time actual position is. So first of all then, let's identify the cycles of life that we're in right now, right? Okay, so starting from long to short, you have about 9 different cycles of life that you're always in. You should check these every day, and ideally though every 3 hours during the day when you're operating, right? So therefore now, at this moment it is 2:22 and a half, so 2:22 p.m. on a Thursday. That's the 5th of June, 2025. So we'll go from short to long now. The daily period of the cycles of life is a B period, from 1:42 p.m. to 5:08 p.m. And also, always use a wintertime reading of time. Do not use the summertime calculation. So wherever you're operating, you use a wintertime calculation of time, because that's the time that it is. When they set the clocks forward artificially in March, and they set them back artificially in October or whatever, that is erroneous, and it creates a fictitious and a potentially dangerous, inaccurate reading of time in an artificial condition that is to be avoided. So use a wintertime reading, okay? Right, now the daily period is a daily period of B right now. And in about 3 hours and 2 minutes from now, we have a high tide at the nearest maritime port. So this is part of the short lunar unit of 12 hours. And remember, that's divided into 2 segments of 6 hours. And those segments of 6 hours are divided into 2 segments of 3 hours. Now, because of the fact that the lunar unit basically alternates between negative and positive every 3 hours. For example, just for your orientation now, we have a high tide within about 3 hours now. And as a general rule, 3 hours before a high tide, it's a positive short lunar unit, right? So that equates that for the next 3 hours, it's a positive short lunar unit with an energetically masculine, male, life-giving and increasing energy present that has and gives way to and makes the way Earth, human, and life activity is for these next 3 hours, right? Because that's the current positive short lunar unit of 3 hours that we're in right now, till the tide peaks here in about 3 hours, right? So then, of course, that's identified by using a tide chart from the nearest maritime location. In addition to that now, you have the 3.5 day long lunar unit that alternates between negative and positive. Currently, we're in a negative 3.5 day lunar unit. Reference point for this and to identify this is simply the date of the new moon and the date of the full moon. And as a general rule, 3.5 days after a new moon, you have a negative 3.5 day long lunar unit, right? And then it goes positive. Then it goes negative, and so on and so forth, till finally 3.5 days before a full moon, you have a positive long lunar unit of 3.5 days. And then 3.5 days after a full moon, it's a negative one, and then it's another 3.5 days of positive, and so on and so forth. Now, the annual life cycle period that we're in, right, that always starts on your birthday, and you have 7 segments of approximately 52 days. That equates about 365 days a year. So I'm in the 6th annual life cycle period. This is the same every year. Each one of these 7 52-day segments is particularly propitious for certain things to be accomplished within business life, personal life, and health areas of life. Okay. Then, obviously, I know what simple overall period of human life I'm in. From 0 to 144 years, that's a simple period of overall human life. And there are segments of 7 from 0 to 144, and you're always in a certain segment, or just generally in or going into a certain segment there, where you'll automatically be prone to accomplish certain things in both business life, health life, and personal life. And then the longest cycle to actually be regarded and kept in mind is quite simply the soul personality. And I have an overview of that, right? So I know what I should be accomplishing, what to work with and what to avoid, also in the areas of business life, personal life, and even health life. Now, all of this is described in detail in a book called Self-Mastery and Fate with the Cycles of Life. So get a copy of this book. It's free. It's called Self-Mastery and Fate with the Cycles of Life by H. Spencer Lewis. Rest in peace. And thank you to the Ancient Mystical Order of the Rosy Cross for publishing this great work and for their great service to humanity. Okay, I'm going to put the link to the free PDF in the description of this video, God willing, no vows. Okay, so be it. Now, the reason why this basic orientation is important, and the reason why we're active with what we're active with right now, is because you always should have an overview, a circumspect overview, like a bird's eye, like an eagle point of view overview of your cycles of life that you're in at this time. And as I said, the shortest one of these changes every 3 hours. So this is important because now that we know what cycles of life we're in, and based on the description of these that is in the book, we know what this time right now, right, for the next 3 hours, and then later again for the next 3 hours, on and on and on. Essentially, we know what is propitious, what the time that we're in right now is good for, and that goes on for the next, look, I'm 36 now, so what's 144 minus 30? It's 114. 114 minus 6, you have 108, if I'm correct. So I know exactly what I should be occupied with, when I should rest, what I should actually accomplish, what will work best in business life, health life, personal life for the next 108 years for the remainder of my physical earthly existence. I know exactly what the perfect way to go is in all areas of life, right? It's really good to know that. That's true. It's real. It's because of wisdom. Now look, when you're in the midst of all this, okay, you're at the home office, you're in the field, you have appointments, you have legitimate life's goals and objectives, such as promotion, employment, gaining financial and health and wealth increase and maintaining it, just these basic things that we have to be successful with in life. You got to be successful. You got to have wealth and health, maintain it, sustain it, right? Increase it. And, also, though, be able to ultimately master your life and your destiny on an ongoing basis right now, wisely, because as we work right now, so everything works out right now. So see, self-mastery is not simply working to one future goal of having a giant castle and cupboards full of gold bricks in 100 years from now or something of that sort. Rather, you're actually able to master your destiny right now. You're living in security because you have an overview of what the perfect way to go is because of the description of the life cycles and always knowing what life cycles you're in. So self-mastery is actually a work in progress that is happening right now. And okay, therefore, in this moment, there's an absolute security and a safety and a prosperity that's basically guaranteed to you. In other words, you have a very good life right now, and you will keep having it, and you have it on an ongoing basis, actually permanently, if you maintain a certain amount of self-discipline. So now we got to talk about how to maintain a successful and a victorious mode of operation, because there can be things that happen in the process of, for example, starting a new type of work or an employment or training. You're going through training in these things, and it all has to be put in place perfectly so that it will work right, just like with anything in life. So basically the key to being successful and maintaining prosperity is simply that you always also operate as wisely and as prudently as much as possible. And I'm going to give you an example of this and how and why this can be applied and why it should be applied every day and why you should check the life cycles every 3 hours or at minimum once a day. First of all, because the more of a total overview I have of the life cycles that I'm in, the more I know exactly how my day should go. And if I go and I make it that way, so like, for example, this is a neutral lunar unit right now for another 3 hours, right? So the state that the universe and the world and earth and human life activity around us is in right now is neutral. It's basically like kind of neutral, not very active, not very inactive. So knowing this, for example, is very helpful, because now I know, okay, if I try to build something later and accomplish something that's taken a lot of thinking and logical and yada, 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 it's not really going to be very propitious during a double negative lunar unit when the energy for that 3 hours is resting, and taking it really, really calmly, okay? So what I'm saying is you have to coordinate your life's movements, coordinate your training, coordinate your meetings, your appointments, everything at the right time. Now, this is easily accomplished by simply making a map. Wow, you have to do this. See? Listen, I'm going to explain something to you. This is an object example. I intended to make a map. I have it now in my mind as I just spoke. Yet, I have intended to make a calendar page for every day with the lunar units marked out, short and long, and so on. Right? It's like a self-mastery calendar. I intended to do that yesterday. Why hasn't it been accomplished yet? I'll tell you why. I know exactly why. And this is the good thing about self-mastery and having wisdom. It's because for the past 3.5 days, we've been in a negative lunar unit. And there have been short units that have been negative. And that essentially what I'm saying is that there's a time when things are more productive automatically because of positive lunar units. So being able to clearly see and understand why everything is the way it is right now is very helpful. It's as if you have a timetable of how the universe works and when this will work and this won't work. And that applying to all areas of life, and also being able to see what type of a state of energy the universe's energy that powers it is in, because it goes through phases. It alternates between negative and positive, particularly as indicated by the lunar units. The difference between high tide, low tide, full moon, empty moon, new moon, etc. So if you map this stuff out, you have a map of what's going on. And now if I have an objective in mind, I can position that objective to be accomplished in the future or the near future when there is a window of opportunity for it to be accomplished. Now, another thing is, having wisdom and having this much operational capability gives you the option of let's say you have a lot of resources that you can use and potentially a lot of power to work with. So you have to be responsible and honest with yourself too, because with great power comes great responsibility, and you have to be prudent because you're now operating with and wielding a lot of operational capability that can result in a lot of good things happening and or vice versa. The key is just simply to have prudence, to be prudent, and to be able to manage yourself and restrain yourself and have self-discipline to just be prudent, essentially, and almost force yourself to be active with the right things when it's the right time, therefore, and to cease from being active when it is not the right time for these things. So that then you're always active when it's the time to be active, and you have maximum, abundance of good things and health and wealth, and just you're living in harmony with the cycles of life, and you're systematically accessing the maximum amount of always available providence or divine providence or cosmic abundance of all good things in life that are always systematically available, because providence is giving things in different providential packages at different times, particularly within the different daily periods of the cycles of life, and then also in the particular annual life cycle period you're in, and so on and so forth. So the more you have an overview of this, and you keep this overview every day, and you coordinate your activities during the day in accordance with when it is propitious, like schedule a meeting today for a promotion in the A period earlier. I saw the director of the hotel early in the A period. Very good time for things like that. Okay, now I have to go and do some intellectual studying and so on. So that goes in a C period in the afternoon. It's a good time for that then, right? You have to coordinate things. Now, once again, take a good look, read and study this book called Self-Mastery and Fate. Now, this may seem like a lot. This is just to give a general overview and an emphasis on the importance of maintaining an overview of the cycles of life you're in, because, see, you could be working on something like yesterday where it didn't really, could have been better. Oh, it's because of the cycles it was in. If you'd have positioned it into the right cycles, I'm speaking now from my own experience, then it would have worked perfectly. So you always have to have that prudence to go and plan and execute things at the right times. And if you do this, it just simply works, because that is when providence is providing for it. So thanks for watching, and please repost and